I'm thrilled to introduce our next speaker, Silvia Kolbowski, and her manifesto, Younger and Stronger Men. Silvia Kolbowski is an artist based in New York City. Her scope of address includes the ethics and politics of history, sexuality, culture, and the unconscious. Her project Proximity to Power, American Style, a slide audio work about the relational aspects of masculine power, has been shown at the Secession in Vienna in 2004. In 2007, I saw in Warsaw her amazing exhibition, actually an inadequate history of conceptual art at the Centrum Sztuki Wyszpolszczyzny, very difficult to pronounce this art center. And her most recent project, a video and photo work entitled After Hiroshima Mon Amour of 2008, opened and premiered at LA Art in Los Angeles in September. She's on the advisory board of October Journal and teaches at the CCC program in Geneva. Now, I would like to draw your attention to our two distinguished speakers. A very warm welcome.
We drew near to the snorting machines and caressed their burning beasts, for they are nourished by fire, hatred, and speed. Death, tamed, went in front of me at each corner, offering me his hand nicely, and sometimes lay on the ground with a noise of creaking jaws, giving me velvet glances from the bottoms of puddles. When we are 40, let younger and stronger men throw us in the wastepaper basket like useless manuscripts. We are not out of breath. Our hearts are not in the least tired.
Indeed. Daily visits to museums, libraries, and academies, those cemeteries of wasted effort, calvaries of crucified dreams, registers of false starts, is, for artists, what prolonged supervision by the parents is for intelligent young men, drunk with their own talent and ambition. 8, we are on the extreme promontory of the centuries.
We are already living in the absolute, since we have already created eternal, omnipresent speed. But we shall not be there. We heard only the muttered devotions of the old canal and the creaking of the arthritic, ivy-bearded old palaces, until suddenly we heard the roar of starving cars beneath the windows. We had trampled underfoot our ancestral sloth on opulent Persian carpets, arguing to the limit of our reasoning, and blackening innumerable sheets of paper with our frantic scribblings. No reason to die, unless it is the desire to be rid of the great weight of our courage. 1, we want to sing the love of danger, the habit of energy and rashness.
And yet we had no ideal mistress stretching her form up to the clouds, nor yet a cruel queen to whom to offer our corpses twisted into the shape of Byzantine rings. Then I flung myself like a corpse on a bier across the seat of my machine, but sat up at once under the steering wheel, poised like a guillotine blade against my stomach. The oldest among us are not yet 30 years old. We have therefore at least 10 years to accomplish our task. As soon as I had said these words, I turned sharply back on my tracks with the mad intoxication of puppies biting their tails. And suddenly, there were 2 cyclists disapproving of me and tottering in front of me like 2 persuasive but contradictory arguments. We thought it was dead, my good shark, but I woke it with a single caress of its powerful back, and it was revived, running as fast as it could on its fins. 5, we will sing the man at the steering wheel, whose ideal axis passes through the center of the earth, whirling around on its orbit.
Poetry must be a violent assault on the forces of the unknown, to force them to bow before man. Our hearts were filled with an immense pride at feeling ourselves standing quite alone, like lighthouses or like the sentinels in an outpost, facing an army of enemy stars encamped in their celestial bivouacs. 9, we want to glorify war, the only cure for the world. Militarism, patriotism, the destructive gesture of the anarchists, the beautiful ideas which kill, and contempt for woman.
Let us leave good sense behind like a hideous husk, and let us hurl ourselves like fruit spiced with pride into the immense mouth and breast of the world. Let us feel the unknown not from despair, but simply to enrich the unfathomable reservoirs of the absurd. A crowd of fishermen and gouty naturalists crowded, terrified, around this marvel. Heap up the fire to the shelves of the libraries. Their stupid swaying got in my way. Ha! What a bore! I stopped short and in disgust hurled myself head over heels in a ditch. Of course.
We drove on, crushing beneath our burning wheels like shirt collars under the iron, the watchdogs on the steps of the houses. Oh, maternal ditch, brimming with muddy water. A factory gutter. I gulped down your nourishing mud, which recalled the black breasts of my Sudanese nurse. To admire an old picture is to pour our sensibility into a funeral urn, instead of casting it forward with violent spurts of creation and action. 10, we will destroy all museums and academies of all sorts. We will fight moralism, feminism, and all vile opportunism and utilitarianism.
Public dormitories where you sleep side by side forever with beings you hate or do not know. We know just what our beautiful false intelligence affirms. We are only the sum and the prolongation of our ancestors, it says. Here and there, unhappy lamps in the windows taught us to despise our mathematical eyes. Smell, I exclaimed, smell is good enough for wild beasts. Then the silence increased. They will find us at last one winter's night, in the depths of the country in a sad hangar, echoing with the notes of the monotonous rain, crouched near our trembling aeroplanes, warming our hands at the wretched fire which our books of today will make when they flame gaily beneath the glittering flights of their pictures.
3, literature has up to now magnified pensive immobility, ecstasy, and slumber. We want to exalt movements of aggression, feverish sleeplessness, the double march, the perilous leap, the slap and blow with the fist. We are going to be present at the birth of the centaur, and we shall soon see angels fly. At last, mythology and the mystical cult of the ideal have been left behind. Museums, cemeteries, perhaps.
What is the use of looking behind at the moment when we must open the mysterious shutters of the impossible? And yet, when I emerged mud-spattered and smelly from under the capsized car, I felt the red-hot iron of a delicious joy pierce my heart. What can you find in an old picture except the painful contortions of the artist trying to break uncrossable barriers which obstruct the full expression of his dream? It is because you do not even remember being alive. There is no masterpiece that has not an aggressive character. Time and space died yesterday. A great sweep of madness brought us sharply back to ourselves and drove us through the streets, steep and deep, like dried-up torrents. Then With my face covered in good factory mud, covered with metal scratches, useless sweat and celestial grime, amidst the complaint of staid fishermen and angry naturalists, we dictated our first will and testament to all the living men on earth. Divert the canals to flood the cellars of the museums.
Your objections? All right, I know them. Here they are. 7. Beauty exists only in struggle. They will crowd around us, panting with anguish and disappointment, and exasperated by our proud, indefatigable courage, will hurl themselves forward to kill us, with all the more hatred as their hearts will be drunk with love and admiration for us. With patient and tentative care, they raised high, enormous grappling irons to fish up my car, like a vast shark that had run aground.
And strong, healthy injustice will shine radiantly from their eyes. A racing automobile with its bonnet adorned with great tubes, like serpents with explosive breath. A racing car rattling along like a machine gun is more beautiful than the winged victory of Samothrace. For the dying, for invalids, and for prisoners, it may be all right. It is perhaps some sort of balm for their wounds, the admirable past, at a moment when the future is denied them. Truly identical in their sinister juxtaposition of bodies that do not know each other. Let the good incendiaries with charred fingers come. Do you want to waste the best part of your strength in a useless admiration of the past, from which you will emerge exhausted, diminished, trampled on?
The oldest among us are not yet 30, and yet we have already wasted treasures of strength, love, courage, and keen will, hastily, deliriously, without thinking, with all our might, till we are out of breath. 4, we declare that the splendor of the world has been enriched by new beauty, the beauty of speed.
Alone with the engineers before the satanic furnaces of great ships, alone with the black phantoms who ferret in the red-hot bellies of locomotives, alone with the drunkards beating their wings against the walls. 2, the essential elements of our poetry will be courage, audacity, and revolt.
Does this surprise you? Do you want to poison yourselves? Do you want to rot? But we will have none of it. We, the young, strong, and living. But to take our sadness, our fragile courage, and our anxiety to the museum every day, that we cannot admit. Reciprocal ferocity of the painters and sculptors who murder each other in the same museum with blows of line and color.
We all started up at the sound of a double-decked tram rumbling past, ablaze with multicolored lights like a village in festival dress, that the flooded river tears from its banks and sweeps through gorges and rapids down to the sea. To make a visit once a year, as one goes to see the graves of our dead once a year, that we could allow. We must break down the gates of life to test the bolts and the padlocks. Let us go. Here is the very first sunrise on earth.
6, the poet must spend himself with warmth, glamour, and prodigality to increase the enthusiastic fervor of the primordial elements. It rose slowly, leaving in the ditch like scales its heavy coachwork of good sense and its upholstery of comfort. take the picks and hammers, undermine the foundation of venerable towns. Look at us, but we will not listen. Standing on the world's summit, we launch once again, our insolent challenge to the stars. For art can only be violence, cruelty, injustice.
We will sing of the stirring of great crowds, workers, pleasure seekers, rioters, and a confused sea of color and sound as revolution sweeps through a modern city. We will sing the midnight fervor of arsenals and shipyards blazing with electronic moons, insatiable stations swallowing the smoking serpents of their trains, factories hung from the clouds by twisted threads of their smoke, bridges flashing like knives in the sun, giant gymnasts that leap over rivers, adventurous steamers that scent the horizon, deep-chested locomotives that paw the ground with their wheels like stallions harnessed with steel tubing, the easy flight of airplanes, their propellers beating the wind like banners, with a sound like the applause of enthusiastic crowds.
Nothing equals the splendor of the red sword which strikes for the first time in our millennial darkness. It has been too long the great second-hand market. We want to get rid of the innumerable museums which cover it with innumerable cemeteries. And we hunted like young lions. Death with its black fur dappled with pale crosses, who ran before us in the vast violet sky, palpable and living. They will come against us from afar, leaping on the light cadence of their first poems, clutching the air with their predatory fingers and sniffing at the gates of the academies, the good scent of our decaying spirits, already promised to the catacombs of the libraries. We have been up all night, my friends and I, under mosque lamps whose filigree copper bowls were constellated like our very souls, because, like them, we were illuminated by the internal glow of electric stars.
Let us feed the unknown, not from despair, but simply to enrich the impenetrable reservoirs of the absurd. All right! Take care not to repeat those infamous words. Instead, lift up your head.
All right. Take care not to repeat those infamous words. Instead, lift up your head.